Alrighty, howdy neighbors and welcome back to Ballads at Midnight. Last time, we finally decided that we were gonna tell Lucius here, who is our vampire boy, what we did, our heinous crime. I got us sent over here. I'm excited. Really? Yeah. Oh, by the way, her name is Abigail. Whoops. I've been waiting for so long, I didn't expect. Hold on just a moment. I need a drink. Shall I fetch your glass as well? I think it would be nice to keep my throat from going dry, yes. What do you have on the menu? Wine. You have wine? Where? Since when? I mean, sure, if you don't mind sharing. Fuck. We just started. Lucius shoots me a mysterious, winning grin before he stalks off into the halls. Where does he hide those things? Every so often, Lucius will present me with some new object or tool from God knows where. This week, he fetched me a ladder to climb to the ledge where I complained about running out of bathing water. As I climbed up, he made me promise not to attempt the perilous journey of swimming across the moat, and then handed me a bucket so I could take all the water I needed. I could swear I've walked through every hall and peeked in every room. Not once have I seen any ladders or buckets to materialize them into existence. Maybe he knows conjuration spells. Conjuration magic? If I know magic, that'll be the day. Lucius returns as I muse over the idea, presenting me with my promised glass. Deep red wine sloshes gently within, glistening like black opal in the room's low light. I would have brought you an entire barrel, but wine is hard to come by around these parts. Better be frugal with it. You can carry an entire barrel. I told you, I'm a strong man. When I first arrived, I even hauled my coffin up all those flights of stairs. Admittedly, it was exhausting. I was strong enough to do it, but I don't have unlimited stamina. So why were you hauling your coffin upstairs? You want to be closer to the sky? You know me so well already. Lucius returns to his seat across his legs, sipping his wine and peering at me over the rim. He looks very at ease indeed. At ease and powerful. Take a slow gulp of my own wine. It's sweeter than I expected, with an undertone of currants and plums. Well, hang on. If you're so strong, how was I able to escape from you? I yanked myself free when I first arrived. I was dangerously close to a complaint, Abigail. I'm just curious. I don't begrudge you for it, but surely you've realized by now that I'm very disciplined and have incredible self-control. I released you because I had no desire to restrain you. You're acting like a street cat who didn't want to be held and not wish to be scratched. Gee, thanks. Discipline, incredible self-control. You're full of praise for yourself tonight, Lucius. I'm serious. These attributes of my character ensure that I would never bring harm to you. Unless you ask me for it. Hey! Hey, yo! I cough into my wine. What is that supposed to mean? Do you need water? No, I'm fine. I can hear how fast my heart is beating. I pluck absentmindedly at my loose strings, still uncertain if I'm ready to reveal the parts of myself I'd rather forget. But he's been vulnerable to me. It's only fair that I'll be vulnerable with him in turn. There's no time like the present. Let's just start with some context. I told you before that I grew up here in Illuvia. I neglected to mention that it was an orphanage. Nightingale Gardens, home for girls. His lip just barely twitches, as if he recognizes that name. I wouldn't be surprised if so. It is a very old, long-established institution. One of his previous guests might have mentioned it, or grew up there like me. Everyone told me it was an inviolable place to be. Especially the matrons, who were always so proud to work there. They told me girls would go as far as to murder their own parents in hopes of being sent to Nightingale Gardens. Holy fuck! I never heard of that actually happening, but that sure was the prevailing attitude. What the fuck? Because the girls of the orphanage were guaranteed to have a place in high society, we were educated vigorously on matters of court, history, handwriting, sewing, and entertainment. Once every several dozen years, the best and brightest girls was even chosen to become Illuvia's next queen. Did they have that tradition when you were human, Lucius? Yeah, if I heard something about it in passing, but it was so long ago. Well, the tradition was in full swing when I was young. The last queen was growing old and infirm, and there were talks that a new queen would be chosen soon. How fortunate for you, yes. You could have been chosen. No, I hated it there. It was stuffy and full of pompous snobs. My matrons had their entire lives planned out for us, without once stopping to ask what we wanted to do. They had the nerve to act like I should keep my mouth shut and be grateful. The other girls seemed content with their lot, which meant they didn't understand how I felt. They kept me at arm's length. I hated the pressure to succeed, and I got into a lot of trouble, even back then. I never would have been in line for the throne. The closest person I had to a friend was an older girl named Ophelia. She was in line for the throne. We all knew she'd be chosen, too, because she was perfect. She was beautiful, graceful, and always seemed to say the right thing. Always. She was always talking about the changes she'd like to make, the ways she'd like to improve our kingdom. She sounds lovely. She does sound lovely, but Abigail, forgive me for saying this. No one is perfect. Surely Ophelia is not exempt. He looks a little surprised when I start laughing. You're right. You're absolutely right. Ophelia was a godforsaken rascal. She'd lied through her teeth with a smile, and no one was any of the wiser. That she let me see her naughty, conniving side. I felt special, you know. And she really did want to make things better. She was as clever and sharp as a knife. But she did care about the people around her. At least that's what I believed. More wine? Yes, please. I drank deeply from my refilled glass before continuing. So when Ophelia was chosen and packed her bags, she promised me up and down that she would write every day. Every single day. I knew that it was forbidden from Illuvia's crown to contact the world outside. We both knew that. Every queen was meant to cut all ties with everyone she ever knew before she was chosen. That was the rule. But I believed her, you know. She was so much smarter than me and so crafty. I really thought she'd find a way. I put the cover of my songwriting journal, which I had placed at my side. I always tried to keep it near, even when it pains me. But all she ever sent me was this book, with its empty pages, and a hurried little note on the inside cover. I thought she was encouraging me to write my songs in it, and it made me happy for a time, but I never heard from her again. Lucius watches me with his full attention. Can't stop now. So what else could I do? I begged the matrons to grant me a position in the castle. I begged them day and night. All I wanted was to see Ophelia again. Until finally, they snapped at me and told me to stop asking. They told me they barely managed to secure a position for me in the court, as a court entertainer in faraway land, that I needed to be grateful. But I wasn't grateful. I argued with them until they took me by the ear and showed me what for. I'll never forget it. How they told me to grow up and stop being childish while they racked me across the back. Apparently, my destination had no complaints about women with whipping scars. Abigail. I ran away soon after that. Just the clothes I wore, and honestly, The very things they have with me now. The loot they gave me, the songwriting journal from Ophelia, and a handful of coins. Lucius spoke slowly, reluctant to interject, but unable to contain his curiosity. Your crime was running away from that wretched orphanage. Oh, no. I gave him the slip. His shoulders sagged with relief. Or did he feel some kinship with the little girl I once was? I went on to become a traveling vagabond over the years. I performed everywhere I could and saw the world. It was difficult in its own way. People distrusted a new face, and meaningful connections were hard to come by. I was even accused of witchcraft sometimes, for some reason. Something about corrupting their women and stealing their men with siren songs. Some days were freeing and exciting back then. Other days made me feel like ghosts in search of a final resting place. But no matter what I did or where I went, I just couldn't stop thinking about Ophelia. Did you have feelings for this Ophelia of yours? Gosh, Lucius, I was practically an adult and I was 6. 20, yes, I was absolutely obsessed with her. Not that she ever seemed to fancy anyone. I'd ask her, if she found some boy or girl attractive. She had this way of wriggling her nose as she turned down every single one. Like you. Like, I gawk at him. I notice you wriggle your nose sometimes. When you find something disagreeable, we're not aware. Your face suddenly feels rather hot. Anyway, well, you know how young girls idolize older women. I do. Yes, what you do. Yeah, I had younger sisters once. We never had a chance to grow close, but I knew they were eager to idolize. This is news to me. I started asking about it. He holds up a hand to stop me. Please, continue your tale. I apologize for the interruption. He grimaces suddenly. My brows knit with concern. It's not the first time I've seen that expression.
Lucius? Are you okay?
Why are we getting voice acting again?
I'm fine. The coffin.
He flinches and takes a deep breath.
I'll be fine for a while longer. It just calls to me sometimes.
Then why don't we finish this there?
If you need to go back early...
Lucius slams his fist into the arm of the seat. His wine jostles slightly with his other hand.
No. I'll not let it squander what little time I have away from it. Forgive me, please. Continue.
Uh-huh. I tap my finger against the cover of my journal, feeling a little agitated, but wanting to gratify his wishes. I would upset if I speed through the story, but I could try to shorten it for him.
Even from distant kingdoms, I would hear terrible gossip about Alluvia's young queen. Apparently, she did nothing to better anyone's life but her own. She kept our cruelest traditions intact, torturing and slaughtering people in droves. Most notably, she kept the tradition of sacrificing people to the crown's pet vampire. No offense.
None taken. Inspiring such unease in its people helps the monarchy stay in power. Fear of punishment, I always heard, is a better motivator than acts of love.
But Ophelia was supposed to be different, and the people were unhappy. There were talks of a revolt. Although I wasn't the most talented bard in the lands, I was starting to get some renown and make strong connections. I can still scarcely believe it, but I managed to get an audience with Queen Ophelia. I was meant to perform for her.
Lucius's eyes slowly went wide with realization.
You didn't.
I maybe, kind of, definitely spoke my mind in front of the queen and her entire court. But I did it through song.
You didn't.
Lucius is torn perfectly between horrified and scandalously amused, clasping his hand over his jaw with disbelief.
I did. Do you want to hear the song?
He gestures with enthusiastically erratic now. He urges me to go on. I can hardly sit still as he pours himself some more wine. As for me, I set my glass down and clear my throat.
Those lands may now be out of sight, but you can still remember your stratagem. Be vain, be cruel, be always right. Proud until unproven. Show your cruel self till the end of night, when you'll be slain at day's conclusion.
As Lucius applauds me, it's as gradual as it is resonant. The very furniture around us seems to shudder in response.
Gods!
That was a more subdued version. Back in chord, I was screaming the lyrics at the top of my lungs.
I only wish I could have seen it for myself. You must have been radiant.
Lucius looks at me with plain, unmistakable admiration. I feel my cheeks growing warm again. I tell myself it's just the wine.
I always knew Alluvia was full of busybody moralists. To think they'd punish you so gravely for such a thing.
So brave.
Simply ungrateful.
Oh, I don't know about gravely. I think I like it here.
And I like having you here.
Why am I dating this man? Our eyes meet with a slow yet abrupt understanding of each other. We are so alike in many ways. I can hardly believe it. The storm had snapped at some point. It's quite enough that I can hear his breath, steady and strong even from this distance. And he grimaces again. I pivot in time to see the sky, now clear of black clouds, shifting into the first dusky hints of daybreak. Lucius. Yes, I'm going. No need to rush me. You may have the rest of this wine, if it pleases you. He smiles at me one last time, straining and fleeting, before he turns into mist and disappears into the shadows. I'll see you tomorrow night, Lucius. I know that there's another way to say it. I believe it's supposed to be Lucius, but I kind of like Lucius. I know I'm speaking to an empty room. I know it all too well, but I already miss him. Chapter 6. Lullabies of the Lost. After staying up all night exchanging bittersweet memories with the vampire, I should have been more than ready to fall into 100-year slumber. Yet I toss and turn for hours. Mind is once again full of locusts, when instead of wheedling questions, this time they whisper ideas. I strut out my chambers with a groan, raking my hands through my haphazard bedhead. So harder than I attended into the blessed writing desk, and steadily begin to write. I want to write the truth, just as I did when I sang before the queen in her court. I would write the truth about this vampire, who was banished to an abandoned estate. I want them to know that his humanity is not as lost as they say. When I get out of here, people will know. My quill scrolls to a stop. When I get out of here, how many songs have I played for him now? On a lunar eclipse, I played my 10th song. Earlier tonight must have been my 13th. I still have a ways to go before I'm free, but I made significant headway on my debt to him. 13 out of 100? I don't think that's good headway. I was thinking about it now. I still have time to decide what I want to do. I nod to myself, bow my head as I continue writing. I wake slowly to light pattering rain outside, with my cheek pressed against the desk and drool seeping to the side of my lips. Blearily, I wipe my mouth and squint a loose leaf paper in front of me. I'd written only 2 legible verses before I was overtaken by exhaustion. The rest is either bitterly scratched out or scarcely decipherable. I sigh, reach out to scratch my head, probably knock over the inkwell. Shit! I sound another string of curses. The ink spreads across the desk and drifts off the side. Instinctively, I save the journal. I end up sacrificing my meager verses to the fast-spreading black pawn. Oh, damn it! What a waste. What's wrong with me lately? This is gonna be so angry with me. Where's that damn cleaning cloth he always uses? I turned to and fro, realized with growing dismay that he always seems to have it on hand. I must keep it on his person. Maybe he has a spare up in the rafters. Maybe he keeps multiple rags near his person. To be safe, I searched through all the cabinets downstairs like a pillaging raccoon. Not a single rag turns up. And that Lucius will be even angrier if I use a blanket or, God forbid, a curtain to clean up the mess. So I have no choice but to venture upstairs. My hand traces the familiar cracks and bumps of the cobblestone walls. A tactile map I've learned to use due to the abysmal lighting of the stairwell. There are no windows to light my path. The torches must have burned themselves down to smoldering husks an eternity ago. As I climb, I try to plant my feet toward the edge of each step, not only to keep my balance, but to reduce the chance of stepping on a groaning center plank. As a general policy, I found it's best to avoid making undue noise. I'm winded by the time I reach the highest point of the estate, and brace myself by resting my palms on my knees. Whom in heaven decided it was a good idea to build something with so many stairs? I might have to give him a piece of my mind. I spent the next half hour carefully rifling through the attic. There's an annoying number of decorative boxes and trinkets up here, but not nearly enough cleaning rags. I reach to a stop when I rush open a jewelry box to see the contents within, realizing in abrupt horror how my actions mirror the person who killed Lucius Artist, rifling through his things. I don't try to steal anything. Lucius will see me, and I still have another hour or two before he wakes up, but, in a slow breath, willing myself to calm down. What if Lucius acts irritated sometimes? He never hesitates to forgive me. Some ways, I would never hesitate to forgive him. I was fixated on a particular point within the open jewelry box. There's an oddly familiar sight in there, hint of a small engraved shape that tugs my memory. I don't notice it immediately, because it's partially buried beneath strings of pearls and gemstones. I slightly shift the valuables aside, allowing the subject of my focus to be laid bare. A ring? It's a chunky, ornate ring. Quite gaudy, and really not something I'd ever been seen wearing. Pluck the item out of the box, peering at it in deep darkness. There's no way. The ring's center is an enormous opal stone. It glitters like the rainbows of fire. Carved directly into the stone is a crest I recognized from the guardsman's shield, and from the banners adorning the Queen's courtroom. Without thinking, I put the ring in my mouth and bite down on the... It's dusty yuck. You feel the marks from my teeth that printed in the metal, while the ring is made of pure gold. An actual genuine royal signet. The member of the crown barter for their freedom with this. Or maybe it was stolen, and traded to you by a thief. It can't be that. A scream cuts through the attic and threatens to burst my eardrums. Fumble and nearly drop the ring. I crowd the ring back into the jewelry box, slamming it shut before whirling around. Words definitely came for the coffin. Lucius! Call out, met with another scream, even more frantic and agonizing than the first. The box is trembling hard enough that I worry it might topple over. Burst of noise. Every bone in my body shrieks for me to stay away, but my tremendous concern for him overwhelms every ounce of fear I have. Coffin is carved in blackthorn wood, with small, devout imperfections chipping off the edges. It's definitely fallen over before. I rub my knuckles gently against the wood, no differently than I knock at a bathroom door. Lucius, can you hear me? Coffin lid thuds as if in response. Continues the thud over and over, as Lucius pounds his fist against the inside surface. Let me out! The door is followed by the terrible, desperate noise of nails clawing against the wood. This is me, Abigail. Are you hurt? Stop this at once, I beg you. Release me. I command you to release me this instant. Okay, let's let you out. The fact that it's not sundown makes me uneasy, but Lucius is clearly in distress. Even if he comes out early, he can stay in the shade. I hastily run my hands along the side of the coffin lid and pull. There's a buzz, as if it sails shut. I try to wrench it open on the opposite side. The coffin continues to hold fast as Lucius screams and thrashes in its confines. The coffin rocks in place. The corner strikes my torso as I remove her around it. I'll get the air from my lungs. Lucius, stop struggling. Liz, why are you doing this to me? What have I done wrong? I'm trying to get you out. There's something wrong with this thing. Is it jammed? I've done everything you asked. Everything I threw my head sharp recognition of his plight. Lucius is talking to me. If his strings is even if his screams sound halfway coherent. Lucius, are you awake? He responds only with a racked sobbing and a final weak thud. Just the noise will not hurt you. He was so certain, so quick to assure of my safety. I stared through my nostrils, pressing my forehead against the lid. I'm here for you, alright, even if you can't hear me. I slumped fully against the coffin, sliding against it as my hands curled into fists. I'm for you as long as you need me, I'm here. Hours pass. I continue speaking to him softly, even though he seems to be addressing someone else. As I hold the coffin steady, straining my arms when it threatens to tumble on its side. Sweat drips down my brow to my cheek, both from physical exhaustion and emotional turmoil. I didn't want to abandon him. I didn't have anybody else. After an excruciating amount of time, he answered me with a more noticeable coherence. His voice is gravelly and hoarse, discernibly calmer compared to the earlier bellowing screams. Abigail, are you still there? Yeah. The sun has gone down, hasn't it? Yeah, at last. Lucius makes a small, curt noise of acknowledgement before he clears his throat. With a hollow wooden groan, the lid of the coffin begins to give way. Through the sliver of the opening, I catch a glimpse of a torn, velvet bedding and deep gouges in the wood. The lid hangs aloft, barely ajar until Lucius's long fingers curl around his frame. He pushes it with visible effort, getting it just open enough to squeeze himself through. I scurry backward to make room for as Lucius staggers out, shoulders slumped and steps uneven. The coffin slams shut, behind him, a ghostly sight that reminds me too much of a closing mouth. Lucius raises his chin briefly, staring down at me with darting, disbelieving eyes before he sags to the ground. I push to his side, propping his back against the coffin. I'm sure it's the last thing he wants to touch, but it's the nearest solid surface. Lucius heaves a giant dejected sigh, and as head lolls back against the lid. It can't be opened until the sun goes down. Curses are obnoxiously specific, airtight, much like the coffin itself. There are times when I've woken up, spilled out of the damn thing, because it rolled under its side. Though he's panting and barely catching his breath, he can't quite keep his absurd commentary to himself. I should thank you for keeping it steady tonight, I presume. Ridiculous. You go through that every single night. I heard. It was like just yesterday when he was suggesting I'd been amputated at the elbow, then miraculously healed from the point with my mighty vampiric powers. He chuckles to himself as if recalling a fond memory, then hangs his head between his knees. Thinking twice, I reach out to rub wide, slow circles on his back. An intrusive fraction of my mind notices his body is warmer than I expected. Take your time. It bothers me that you're deflecting with humor, but we're a pair of pots and kettles, I guess. But the pot could have capitalized on the opportunity to stab the kettle through the coffin. My hand slows, resting on his shoulder blade. Is that a request? No, don't answer that. No, I wasn't going to. It didn't even occur to me, Lucius. If I wanted to stab you, I would have done it weeks ago. How many times have you been stabbed? Before he can answer me, I turn to look at the coffin with new eyes. An innumerable amount of thin, discolored lines stretch across the surface, particularly around the head and the middle of the box. I thought there were wood veins at first. As I leaned closer, I realized they're incisions. Slits that have been but they have since been filled and stained. Some of them have the approximate width of a longsword. Lucius, this is absurdly horrific. There's no way for anyone to live. I don't deserve this. You're too kind, Abigail. A beat passes as he continues to breathe haggardly, still getting his bearings. Have you gotten any rest? He doesn't look up at me. You might have the strength to do so. Have you? Touché! But I was technically asleep. Perhaps half asleep for some of it. But by and large, I was unconscious. I know. Gradually, his eyes raised to meet mine. How would you know such a thing? My breath catches when faced with our sudden proximity. I retract my arms from his back, though I want myself to stay by his side. It's just, we normally keep such a civil distance from each other. We never even sat next to him until tonight, when I performed my songs for him. I'm the act and he is my audience. There's an invisible wall that separates us based on our differing statuses, the entertainer and the entertained. Hear me now. I feel as though the wall has begun to crumble. You must think I'm a terrible housemaid for screaming all day. No, not at all. Sorry, I'm tired. I put my shoulder against his. My fingers fidget and lace together in my lap. An absent-minded little distraction that provides me with a small measure of comfort. I remember what it was like. I used to have night terrors when I was a girl. Did you know? At the orphanage, Nightingale Gardens. Yeah, and it was the worst place to get night terrors. Half the matrons thought I was possessed, the other half thought I was being intentionally, maliciously disobedient. And I can imagine. There was usually some reoccurring nightmares about rats, too, which was the worst. I still get them sometimes. Don't mind me asking, what did you dream about? Do you remember? I don't know if I call it a dream. It's more akin to reliving a memory. The memory of when I was first exiled here. He tapped the surface of the coffin with the back of his knuckles. My surroundings in there look roughly the same, no matter what time period. I'm sure it contributes to my confusion. I'm convinced that this... Lucius looks at me, his eyes full of meaning that I can't quite decipher. This is a dream, and the inside of the coffin is my reality. Is there anything I could do? Is there something? Where do you keep the wine? I shift to stand, but Lucius catches my hand before I'm fully upright. Can I read? At some point, please, in my life? Stay. He blinks rapidly and then drops his gaze to the floor. If he's uncertain and surprised at himself, but he does not let go. His hand around mine is gentle and apprehensive. Please stay seated. Stay with me a while longer. You know, I came here to clean up my mess, and now he's gonna be mad. Acquiescing without difficulty, I lower myself to my knees. He seems to breathe more easily when I'm by his side. We stare out the expansive glass window for a time, content with the quiet together. Of course, Lucius does not like to remain quiet for long. You know, I may feel better if you regale me with more miserable tales from your childhood. I wrinkle my nose at him and whack his shoulder with the back of my hand. He flinches, but I feel his body quaking with quiet laughter. I'm serious. You mentioned something about rats. Why have they plagued your dreams so? I'm afraid of them. They seem to have taken it upon themselves to haunt me. The state has been marvelously rat-free. Yes, they have to try quite hard to cross the moat. Is there a story behind this fear of yours? Did you lose your parents to a drove of rats? I remember enough of my infancy to say either way. My earliest memories were in Nightingale Gardens. Although there was one time. I cut myself off with a snicker, which makes Lucius tilt his head at me with a wry, curious smile, or at least request for me to finish my thought. Forgive me, it's just the stupidest thing. There was a time when food was going missing from the kitchen. Matrons gathered us up and announced that we had a rat infestation. I was upset by the news, to say the least. I nearly stopped eating. Where did I find a hair or whisker in my meals, or worse? I shuddered for comical effect. And Lucius pats my head encouragingly, issuing a small, grateful smile. I was just so frightened whenever I saw those beady little eyes, or that flick of the tail into a crevice. It haunted every moment of my little life, day and night. I'm fairly sure that's when the nightmares began. I'd wake the whole orphanage just shrieking. Apparently I even lashed out at the matrons with swinging fists. But I wasn't awake. Not really. I remember some of my outbursts, but couldn't tell what was real. They talked about getting rid of me then. It was even more terrifying and confusing than the night terrors. They discussed my fate right in front of me, like I wasn't even there. Lucius didn't say anything, but he watched me with furrowed brows. Are you sure my miserable childhood tales are making you feel better, Lucius? No, but tell me anyway. Why did your night terrors go away? That's the stupid part of the story. I didn't know Ophelia very well back then. I knew she was the picture-perfect angel of Nightingale Gardens, and I knew she was beautiful, but was much too shy to speak with her until one day. She shaking me by the arm and pulled me aside, dragged me all the way into the cellar, where we couldn't be seen, couldn't be overheard. Of course, this was very upsetting for me as well. Cellars are notoriously full of rats. She shushed me fiercely, eyes ablaze, shook me so hard I was nearly dizzy. Stop screaming every night, she said. There are no rats in the kitchen. I just out and wailed in her arms. I didn't believe her, and I didn't like getting yelled at. I mean, how could she try to lie to me like that, right? It wasn't unreasonable for me to be afraid. I was just a little girl. God, she was so frustrated with me. She groaned through gritted teeth and insisted there was absolutely no rats. And that's when she told me she made it all up. The rats. The entire infestation. She made it up. She was lying to the entire orphanage about it. Why in heaven would she do such a thing? To see if she can get away with it. Isn't that awful? She was stealing extra helpings of food for herself and planting false evidence, rat droppings in fur, to ensure her lie held water. Each day, she told the matrons that she was going into town to find a cat. You know, so the cat can get the rats. But she never actually looked for one. She just went out and had her fun in town. Then came back with one of those apologetic doe eyes that made everyone melt for her. Anyway, Ophelia showed me where she kept her spoils, and she said she would share with me as long as I keep my mouth shut. I had to not only stop screaming, but also had to keep her grubby little secret. Her reputation was spotless after all. Revealing her mischief would damage her chances of becoming queen. It was fun at first. I suffered so many nightmares because of her, but then I was intrigued. I promised I would keep quiet, but from that moment on, I saw her in a new light. I watched her like a hawk and followed her like a shadow, curious what other lies she'd been spreading. But the night terrors didn't stop, not right away. So Ophelia became fond of me at some point, because she'd sneak into my room to sing softly to me every night. Every single night, even when my nightmares were gone for good. I don't think I can ever forget that lullaby. May I hear it, Abigail? The knot at the pit of my stomach returns, twisting and aching. No, I can't. In the corner of my eye, I noticed a blotch of ink in my lap. I rubbed it absentmindedly, switching with my thumb. Sorry, it's just... No, to explain, I understand. No, you don't understand. When I confronted her in the throne room, God's was planning to be treasonous, you know? Spent months writing a beautiful song for her when I saw her. I knew it was forbidden for the crown to see anyone from the previous life. I knew that, so I hid who I was. I used a false name and pretended it was my first time setting foot on Illuvian soil. All I wanted was to see her again. I would have been satisfied if I could see her one last time. If I could see that all those terrible rumors were all wrong. I sting. I wiped them with my wrist. But she. Whoever was sitting on the throne, it was not my Ophelia. It couldn't have been her. Whoever it was, she had her face, but she didn't have her eyes. Not the eyes I knew. These eyes were hungry, yet full of disdain, watching me like I was some sort of worm under her heel. She had this ridiculous harem that were dancing around, and every so often she called one of them to come sit on her lap and kiss her in front of everyone. It makes sense. Ophelia didn't like anybody. Let's make sure. Started to make small talk. Something to introduce the song. I asked if there were any rats in the royal kitchen. She just scoffed at me and told me it was a repulsive thing to suggest. She told me to be silent, that she didn't want to hear another word unless I was going to play my song. My lip quivers, and I notice my voice begins to break. So I changed the song. I had to convey how I truly felt. Lucius throws his arms around me, then, holding me tight, I bawl against his chest, using every ounce of my composure. Forgive me. Forgive me, I shouldn't have asked you about this. She told me she wanted to make things better for everyone. She told me she'd write. Why didn't she ever write? Forgive me. Chapter 7. A hesitant tune. Did we ever clean up the ink? I cried myself into a stupor. To be honest, I don't really fully know what a stupor is, but we can find out at some other time. Next thing I knew, I was sitting in my bed with red swollen eyelids and a throbbing headache. I have vague memories of Lucius carrying me to my room, grunting unhappily when he had to wedge his way in. I really needed to stop pushing my bed against the door. And then as he drew the covers up to my neck, he told me. What did he tell me? I tied my temples at a steady rhythm, digging down the memory until it eludes me for good. He wanted me to meet him in the courtyard. He said he would wait for me there until I felt well enough to see him. I think he said he had something to tell me. I pressed my palms to my eyes to reduce the swelling. Even my throat is raw from shedding years of pent-up grief. In grief's place, a new flip-flop of emotion is swirling my chest. My heart is pounding in an erratic... Stasio? No. I know this word! Fucking goddammit. Staccato. No, that's not it. Whatever. It's a music word. I used to know it. I don't anymore. It's an erratic beat. I didn't want to be sick. I can't believe I told him everything. I even cried in front of him, slobbering all over his clothes. God, it was mortifying. I never cry in front of people, let alone on them. And I was so distracted by my own melodrama that I completely forgot to ask him about the ring. I shook my head, telling myself that it's fine. Plenty of time to ask him later. Lucius stands like a pillar under the moonlight, and his hands are linked behind his back as he observes the heavens. For the first time in a long while, the sky is clear. A yellow crescent moon hangs high among the stars like a lopsided smile. Just pretend. I wince at the soggy squelch of mud in every step I take. Since he was the one who asked me to meet out here, I don't think he'll begrudge me for any muddy footprints. Thanks, dude. Hey, did I keep you waiting long? Lucius didn't turn. I was something to show you. Ah, it was show, not tell. Another astrological phenomenon. No. His hands tighten imperceptibly behind his back. Lucius turns just enough to glance at me, and I shoot him a sheepishly puzzled grin in response. Something about seeing me renews his resolve. Follow me. Lucius leads me through the side entrance of the estate, through empty stables and servant quarters. There's little of note when I ambled through here before. We cut through a terrace. He stops to grab a light. He stops to grab and light a lantern. He holds it out in front of us, though our path is far from dark. I continue to trail after him down several winding halls until finally we reach a dead end. It's what you want to show me. Lucius, I've already seen every inch of this estate. What? Lucius pushes his palm against the furthest wall, revealing a door-shaped indent. He leans his weight into it until it gives way, revealing a dark passageway and a small staircase leading down. Lucius extends a hand to me with a sideways smile. Coming? Takes his hand with a touch of hesitation. His skin is cool from the night air. I don't want to climb any more stairs after this. Lucius laughs and pulls me at every step. I won't have to, I can promise you that. An ambitious promise. This is the moment where you're luring me to my doom at last, yes? You're finally going to drink my blood and reduce me to a withered corpse. Yes, I've prepared a wonderful marinade of citrus, olive oil, and green pepper to baste you in downstairs. Really? No. He leads me down an old, cavernous path that expands the size the deeper we go in. Lantern sways from Lucius's grasp with each step, casting a pallid glow on our surroundings. I see now why he's grabbing it. It soon becomes our only source of illumination. I squint when the light catches against an irregular surface. The sides of the path have been piled with broken and non-essential objects, table legs, ripped cushions, and even some weapons. It's the cabinet I broke the first night here, isn't it? I was wondering where it went. Are those wine barrels? Yes, then yes. I used the underground as a storage room. This is where you've been hiding all your ladders and buckets and wine. Hiding? Not at all. I just like to keep things tidy. Although, sand tightens around mine. I do try to withhold the ladder from the guests at the beginning of their stay. The number of people have tried to break the moat and drown in the attempt. I didn't want the same to happen to you. Because you would have missed my music. I would have missed you. I wouldn't have been able to help you, Abigail. His voice is stern, with a harder edge than I expected. If something happened to you in the moat, if you were to. Unable to reach the water as I am, I would only be able to watch. I do not want to see you suffer. The sheer weight behind his words makes me hold my tongue, despite the temptation of making a flippant comment about my inability to swim. The ground begins to shift from solid rock to loosely packed dirt that turns and scuffs underfoot. Soon the path slopes and the air becomes heavy and damp. I find myself taking deeper breaths, which only magnifies my growing apprehension. Lucius lets go of my hand as we reach a steep precipice. My fingers curl inward, already aching from the absence of his touch. Lucius, where have you been taking me? What is this place? Nailed into the precipice with wooden stakes, a long rope ladder extends further into the dark abyss. Girl, fuck this. I would not. No. The opening becomes narrower below, but the structure of the passage seems secure and dry. No signs of water droplets leaking through from the moat. I catch Lucius, trying to hide a grimace, as he kneels to inspect the strength of the rope. Deep beneath the earth, as we are, we must be standing on the lowest part of the estate. Being this far from the coffin must be straining for him. When Queen Hildegard banished me, when she sealed me in that blasted coffin, she ordered her soldiers to put me somewhere around here. Originally, there was an enclosed wine cellar attached to the estate. where my exile began and where I first awoke. We removed the wine, of course, before we began the excavation. Excavation? I told you before that I had a motley crew working a way out of here. There were 5 of them, including Jillian. It took for months under my supervision. You can see why I had to relocate to sleep upstairs, I'm sure. Where are you going with this? It's not obvious. Setting you free, Abigail. The tunnel will lead you safely under the moat and out the other side. Why? You stupid dick. I must have misheard him. I'm sure of it. It was the only reasonable explanation. He must have said something like, "Go fetch me some tunnel fish," or "I'm trapping you down here forever, so you can never cry on me again, you disgusting creature." Like as though you wish to argue with me. I understand verbal sparring is one of our favorite pastimes, but please, listen to me this once. Every day you spend here is a lost opportunity. This is time you will never get back. Why should you endure such a fate when you did nothing wrong? You did not deserve to be punished just for speaking your mind. All this over in your song. You understand, don't you, Abigail? Freedom should have never been up for bargain. Your freedom. This is priceless, Abigail. Just wait. This is too sudden. I will wait no longer, knowing the injustice you've suffered. Yes, Abigail, live your life and be free. You're not an immortal like me. You should spend what little time you have in happiness. But haven't you also suffered injustice, Lucius? Don't you also deserve freedom and happiness? I cast my eyes down the dark passageway searching. If this leads under the moat, you should be able to travel beneath it, right? He no longer tries to hide the flinching grimace, a cold reminder of his reality. The coffin. A secondary measure that guarantees he can never leave. You have to bring the coffin with you. As long as it's nearby, you can go anywhere you want. And what, carry it all the way through miles of tunnel and woods, stopping each day to clamber in and howl through my night terrors, terrifying the local wildlife. Then eventually, when we do reach civilization, we'll gain a name with the woman who travels with the possessed coffin. We'll both be social pariahs then, won't we? No thank you. Besides, I believe I told you how deeply I dislike tight spaces. The tunnels beyond this point disagree with me. Better off in my own private estate. How do you believe this is better? It's the only choice I have, Abigail. It's the only life I'm allowed to lead. You'd best worry about your own choices, especially now that your debt is cleared. I'm providing you with a week's worth of rations along with enough coins from my personal coffers to compensate you for your performances. Now, are you ready to go? What in the fuck? Ridiculously, my eyes are swimming with tears again. It's my best attempts to blink them away and walk them away. Will I choose? I know it's a little early, but I think I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you later.